And really, the talk for today is about cultivating beloved community. And we'll just get right into it. Yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
I will say that for this talk and really this session overall, we're calling in the ancestor Thich Nhat Hanh, a lot of his energy and wisdom. Also calling in the ancestor Bell Hooks, and just personally those ancestral energies that support us in our daily personal lives as well, calling all of that energy and support and wisdom into this talk and also into the session so that we can share with you today. So how did this all come about? I think many times, Travis and I, when we're having conversations about pretty much a little bit of everything, it seems like we always come back to the same thing. Like, we need community. We need community. We need to be in community. Like no matter what's happening, whether it's on a local level, personal lives, if we're looking at society as a whole, it seems like we're always coming back to, yeah, because see, we need community. We need to be in community. Come together, come together. And so thinking about this, I was saying to Travis, like, all right, yeah, that sounds good. But maybe sometimes people are like, I can hear that. And it sounds nice to me, but like how? It was so much going on. I have so much personally going on. There's so much going on in the world. So like, how? How do we do that? What does that look like? And what came to my mind was there's a article with Bell Hooks and Thich Nhat Hanh in conversation. And Bell Hooks is asking Thich Nhat Hanh about building a loving community and asking like, what is that? How do we do that? Because as far as Bell Hooks is concerned, at that time, society has gotten so far away from love. And so Bell is asking, how do we get back to that place? And what I really found interesting is that Bell talks about that even beforehand, before this interview happened, that Belle was so excited. And then when it started to actually occur, Belle was like, okay, I have all this rage in me, so now meeting this person that Belle was so inspired by, I'm so looking forward to it. But then when the time comes, it's like all this rage is coming out because Belle is sharing about all these racialized experiences that had taken place up to the point of having this conversation. And also really feeling um like that's all that Belle was focusing on. And so Belle says that Thich Nhat Hanh's response was, it's okay. It's okay that you have this anger. You can take this anger and you can compost it. And so Belle said that that was helpful because there was shame there. There was shame in just feeling like the only thing that Belle could touch on in front of this wise teacher was anger, and that the response back was so much love and kindness. It brought on this shame, like, oh my gosh, here I am spewing all this stuff out, and then this person is just hitting me back with love and kindness. But once Thich Nhat Hanh came around and said, you know what, it's okay. It's the same way we can compost things working in the garden. Take that anger and compost that anger. And so I want to just really sit with that in terms of even talking about community. Because sometimes when it comes to community, there's things that may arise, that may show up that might be a little bit of a hindrance from being open to how we get to community or beloved community, loving community. And that one of the ways that at least this wisdom that's coming through is that Thich Nhat Hanh is basically saying that everything is useful, you know, everything, whether it's the shame, it's the anger, it's the joy, everything is useful. And in this practice, what we're reminded of over and over and over again is that we're human, right? So yeah, spiritual beings, but we're having this human experience. And so with that, all of this comes with it. It's not about perfection. So Thich Nhat Hanh goes on to say, to build a loving community, there needs to be harmony and peace and understanding. And when I think about harmony, I think about music. I used to play an instrument a long time ago. And also, if you sing or have been in the chorus, or if you just sing in general, thinking about music and what harmony is, even in that sense. Harmony is you can have so many different sounds. So with music, so different sounds in terms of instruments, different sounds in terms of voices. Somebody's a soprano, somebody is a alto, baritone, but yet the harmony comes when all of those voices come together and it just sounds like one. It sounds like one. And so let's think about that with building loving community or beloved community. We're all human. We all have these different experiences, different ways we may identify ourselves. And yet when we come together, just like with the cloth from the centerpiece, when all those colors come together, oh my gosh, it is beautiful. And so with beloved community, we can look at it that same way. That it's not the things that we perceive and see as differences that should be keeping us separate and keeping us apart, but it's those very things that we understand when we pull them together. They can make one beautiful thing, right? And then the peace that Thich Nhat Hanh talks about, peace and community. What I'm reminded of is that it's not perfect. Um, I don't know if you can relate to this, Travis, but growing up, the community that I lived in growing up, um, if you were outside, a neighbor, and when I was growing up, a neighbor could say something to me, if they saw you, because they knew, they knew your parents or they knew your grandparents. People came to each other's houses, if they had questions or were looking for someone, there was a lot of engagement and interaction. And all of this was happening in the midst of all the chaos that tends to happen in society and throughout the world over time. So it wasn't that it was this perfect neighborhood, but in the midst of any kind of chaos that arose, anything else that was unpleasant that arose in that neighborhood, the peace was there because there was still this sense of calmness in people's heart because they knew, even with all these other things going on, I know I can go next door and ask this person for, hey, you got some sugar, or I could trust that, if my child is outside, somebody's looking out for them. So that's peace, right? In the midst of when it's not calm, when it is chaotic. And then finally, Thich Nhat Hanh talks about this understanding, being present in a loving community. And so what I'd like to do is share a story that I think can allow us to just sort of really sit with this idea of understanding or expanding ourselves to understanding and how that can play out within community. Because ultimately, what Thich Nhat Hanh shares with Bell Hooks is that how we get back to love, how we build this loving community, beloved community, we build it when we start with ourselves. Because each one of us makes up the community. So it has to start internally. It has to start with us. And ultimately, whatever we do for ourselves and how we take care of ourselves, that makes the community because that's going to show up when we are with others. So I'd like to share this story and then we're going to come back and just allow some time and space for people to share what's arising for them, if anything. And Travis will also help us kind of facilitate that too. So the story that I'll share is called Please Call Me by My True Names. And this is a story within a book called The Art of Living, Peace and Freedom in the Here and Now by Thich Nhat Hanh. So the story goes, I remember one day in the 1970s, while we were working for the Vietnamese Buddhist peace delegation in Paris, some terrible news came in. Many people had been fleeing Vietnam by boat, which was always a very dangerous journey. Not only was there the danger of storms and not having enough fuel, food, or water, but also there was the risk of getting attacked by pirates who were active along the coast of Thailand. The story we heard was tragic. Pirates had boarded a boat, stolen valuables, and raped an 11-year-old girl. After the attack, the girl threw herself overboard too. Both perished in the sea. After I heard this news, I couldn't sleep. The feelings of sadness, compassion, and pity were very strong. But as a practitioner, we cannot let the feelings of anger and helplessness paralyze us. So I practice walking meditation, sitting meditation, and mindful breathing to look more deeply into the situation, to try to understand. I visualize myself as a little boy born into a poor family in Thailand, my father an illiterate fisherman. From one generation to the next, my ancestors had lived in poverty, without education, without help. I too grew up without an education and perhaps with violence. Then one day, someone asked me to go out to sea and make a fortune as a pirate, and I foolishly agreed, desperate to finally break out of this terrible cycle of poverty. And then, under pressure from my fellow pirates and with no coastal patrol to stop me, I forced myself on a beautiful young girl. My whole life, I have never been taught how to love or understand. I never received an education. Nobody showed me a future. If you had been there on that boat with a gun, you could have shot me. You could have killed me. But you wouldn't have been able to help me. Meditating that night in Paris, I saw that hundreds of babies continue to be born under similar circumstances, and that they will grow up to be pirates unless I do something now to help them. I saw all of this and my anger disappeared. My heart was full of the energy of compassion and forgiveness. I could embrace not only the 11-year-old girl in my arms, but also the pirate. I could see myself in them. This is the fruit of the contemplation on emptiness, on interbeing. I could see that suffering is not only individual, it is also collective. Suffering can be transmitted to us by our ancestors, or it can be there in the society around us. As my blame and hatred dissipated, I became determined to live my life in such a way that I could help not only the victims, but also the perpetrators. So I want to just take this time to allow you to really just take in anything, if there's anything that resonates with you from that story. And again, just highlight the wisdom that comes through in that when we talk about building beloved community, a loving community, that it starts at home. And it starts at home with us taking care of ourselves. Once we begin to take care of ourselves, and I know that Thich Nhat Hanh, he gets very specific in terms of, what are we taking in terms of what are we taking in our physical body? What are we taking in mentally? How are we speaking to ourselves? What are we listening to? How are we engaging with others? So all the ways that we can take in things are a part of how we can take care of ourselves. And as we begin on that journey, then we can move further and further to the point where we might be able to lean in and expand into this type of understanding that we see in this story. So I'd like to stop there so that we can give a little time for reflection and sharing. And Travis, if you want to just kind of start us off.